Hello, this is and I am Kitty Hollywood. We are going to be looking at 1948's RKO picture, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. Now, until very recently, my only copy of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House looked like this. And I had to fast forward through the ads, and it's a bit crappy. So I went out and splurged on a 4-pack, and don't worry, these other films will be reviewed at some point in time. So, there's a little bit of history for you. The film is written and produced by Melvyn Frank and Norman Panama, costumes by Robert Kalich, cinematography by James Wong Howe, directed by H.C. Potter, no relation. It was based on a very, very popular and famous book of the time, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, written by Eric Hodgins. It related a series of tales about a man attempting to build his dream house and everything that could possibly go wrong going wrong.
I think I can tell you what happened. First, the carpenters had to rip up the flooring that was already laid. Those planks run under the entire width of the pantry, so Retch had to knock out the bottom of the pantry wall to get at them. Then, he had to chop off the top of the joist under the flour sink space to make room for the cradle. Or I guess he got some iron straps and fastened them to a large pan to give him something to hold the cement. And then, with that added load on the weakened joists, I'll bet he had to put a lally column down there for support, too.
Now, if this sounds like a film that you saw sometime around the 80s, starring Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, you'd be right. The Money Pit is a remake of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. Anyway, the film stars Cary Grant, Myrna Loy, and Melvyn Douglas. Cary Grant is Cary Grant. Most famously, born in England, Archibald Alexander Leach, a name that he made fun of throughout many of his films. Ran away, joined the circus, well, an acrobatic troupe, came over to America. Cary Grant was also one of the first very famous actors to go independent. He didn't belong to any studio, and that was pretty mind-boggling at the time, because almost always you signed with Warner Brothers, you signed with MGM, you signed with 20th Century Fox, and he had so much more power as a result, so better able to pick and choose his films. I think that probably contributes towards the quality of the films that he made throughout his entire life. Best known for, well, his sort of filmic relationship with Katharine Hepburn, Bringing Up Baby, The Philadelphia Story, His Girl Friday with Rosalind Russell, which is just a rapid-fire dialogue dream of a film, Indiscreet, An Affair to Remember, of course, with Deborah Kerr, and then the sort of other side of Cary Grant, which was the Hitchcockian Suspicion, Notorious, To Catch a Thief, North by Northwest. And actually, Alfred Hitchcock said about Cary Grant, he was the only actor I've ever loved in my whole life. So I think that really says a lot about Cary Grant.
Father, just one morning, I wish you'd knock.
I beg your pardon.
Myrna Loy. Myrna Loy was born in 1905. Nothing particularly remarkable about her upbringing, but she was used as a model for a fountain. It actually can apparently be seen at the beginning of Grease, because it's the high school that was used in order to shoot Grease. So there's a funny little tidbit for you. She became famous in the 1930s mostly for playing slinky femme fatales with very, very high, thin eyebrows. She and Cary Grant have this beautiful relationship with each other. They seem to understand subtlety innately together, I think is the best way to put it. And their relationship is delightful. I think she just goes as straight as she possibly can to allow him to keep going along in his more physically comedic fashion, and she's straight as a die the whole time, but at the same time you can see her just going, yeah, husband, I know you. I really enjoy watching them together in this film.
What a wonderful friend.
What's with all this kissing all of a sudden?
What's that?
Well, just because a man is helpful in a business way doesn't give him extracurricular privileges with my wife.
Well, that's a fine thing to say about a friend of 15 years.
Well, I just don't like it. Every time he goes out of this house, he shakes my hand and he kisses you.
Would you prefer it the other way around?
Well, the third main role in this film was played by Melvyn Douglas. Melvyn Douglas was born in 1901. He became famous in the 30s playing sophisticated leading men. Most famously, he was the man who made Greta Garbo laugh for the first time on screen in Ninotchka. He played against Joan Crawford a few times. He is a wry observer of the mishaps, but he actually works as a very nice foil to both of them. I was kind of in love with Melvyn Douglas for a while. Who wasn't I in love with for a while? Melvyn Douglas, quite fascinatingly, became renowned much later into both his acting life and his life. He's the winner of 3 Oscars, in fact. 1 Best Supporting Actor for HUD. He played Paul Newman's father, and that's in 1963 when he was 62 years old. 1 Best Actor in 1970 for playing Gene Hackman's father in I Never Sang for My Father. So, again, that's, 69? And then finally, he won another Best Supporting Actor, his role in Being There, and he was 78, which is pretty amazing, and he died when he was 81 years old.
I gotta run along. Jim, do me a little favor, will you? The next time you're gonna do anything, or say anything, or buy anything, think it over very carefully. When you're sure you're right, forget the whole thing.
The house was actually erected in Malibu Creek State Park, and in fact it still stands there today as administrative offices. Heaps and heaps of films were shot in Malibu Creek State Park. There was Dr. Dolittle, Planet of the Apes, Love Me Tender, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, amongst others, and then actually much later on, a part of Pleasantville was shot in Malibu Creek State Park. So, and MASH, the TV show that is, as a promotion, they built 73 dream houses across America and raffled them off to people, which is extraordinary, and at least 60 of them were fitted out by GE, by General Electric, so that they had state-of-the-art, gorgeous, swanky-pants kitchens. That blows my mind. And a lot of the houses are still identified today as Mr. Blandings houses, and there are various blogs across the internet that refer back to them. The best one I found was Robert Abelos Real Estate, which referred back to Mr. Blandings' house in particular. That was a very, very good site. Back to the original houses, built by Eric Hodgson, the real one. Quite fascinatingly, it had one of the first domestic dishwashers in use. And this dishwasher lasted for 46 years, and in fact was donated to the Smithsonian after it was removed from the house. Can you imagine anything, a dishwasher lasting for 46 years? Myrna Loy's character clearly has an evening dress that she gets into every evening. So it's like, I've come, I'm home, but I'm having dinner now, and now I need to change into my swanky thing for after dinner. So she wears this gown a couple of times, and it's her house swanky gown, and I just find the history, the notion of that quite fascinating. The cinematographer for this film was James Wong Howe, who was one of the most prolific and sought-after cinematographers, especially of the 40s. I mean, this is a light film, but it's beautiful to look at, and all credit due to him from that point of view. It's a lovely film. It's funny. It will make you go, oh, I'm really glad I'm not building a house. It'll make you, you can't ever really feel sorry for them, because they've clearly got a lot of money and not that many problems. But apart from house building ones. But it's sweet and lovely, and it will make you feel happy at the end of it. So I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10 and say it's a lovely film and you should get your hands on it somehow, and that's all I'm going to say.